welcome to the second studio episode of Nitro Nights. My name is Melek Balgün, and it's my utmost pleasure to welcome you in this lovely studio and bring you the hottest esports racing news of the week. We have prepared a lot of interesting topics for you guys at home. We're going to talk about last weekend and the Porsche Tagheuer Esports Supercup, as well as welcome a very familiar face to the esports industry here in our studio. Sadly, not in person due to the situation, but at least via video call. We're going to talk to Leigh Deman about esports racing and how the pandemic affected the industry. I'm very excited to do that. But before we jump too far ahead of ourselves, let's see what happened last weekend at the Porsche Tagheuer Esports Supercup in Race 3 at Donington Park.
£200,000 prize fund at the end of the season. First race is about to get underway. Looks like a good launch of pole position for our pole sitter Alejandro Sanchez. Watch Sebastian Job go out wide here. Now you can run all the way around Goddard's, and then as you go over the crest in Hollywood, try and take the initiative, and he does exactly that.
What a start by Red Bull's Sebastian Job. Alejandro Sanchez tried to fight for first place, but he didn't manage to either defend or take it back from the Brit. Job won the first race almost unchallenged.
Victory for Sebastian Job. And across the line, Alejandro Sanchez and Max Benecchi complete the podium.
Next up was the main race, with Sebastian Job now starting in pole position.
Number 22 with the Red Bull livery is our pole sitter Sebastian Job. Alongside him, blue and turquoise, Alejandro Sanchez, and away we go. And already a big jump away at the start.
Job knows exactly how to defend first place. While the British driver was hard to catch, we saw a tough fight for second.
Benecchi goes inside, and you said he just made the move too early. There was contact there.
Game over for the German. This saw his chances to make it to the podium evaporate. Meanwhile, Job showed he was definitely unbeatable that day. A start-to-finish victory in Donington Park's main race went to prove his top contender qualities for the season.
Double victory at home in the UK.
Congratulations to Sebastian Job for taking home the UK Cup at Donington Park with a double. But those two wins weren't still enough to surpass his contender, Joshua K. Rogers, on the leaderboard standings, who's still sitting comfortable on the pole position with a 6-point advantage. And yes, of course, the Porsche Tagheuer Esports Supercup wasn't the only highlight of the week. That's why we had Tom prepare a Newsflash. Tom, take it away.
Hey guys, what's happening? Tom Deacon back on Nitro Nights for the Newsflash. So good to be back. Not here, obviously this is my lounge, but it's so good to be back at Nitro Night. I don't think I need to explain that, but now I have explained it. It just seems like, do you know what? Let's just move on. It's good to be back, guys. Missed you. But let's start the Newsflash then with the ABB FormulaE RaceAtHome Challenge. Race 5 taking place at Berlin at Tempelhof Airfield Track. Stoffel Van Dorn straight in to pole position in qualification. Now, how can I describe Stoffel? Well, he's kind of like the bridesmaid and never the bride. Unfortunately, he's always pipped, it would seem. And Oliver Rowland took advantage of an earlier crash and therefore took the lead and never looked back. I mean, you would never look back. You'd always just look on the wing mirrors if you're going to be overtaking. Anyway, he won the race by 0.2 seconds. So unfortunately, Stoffel Van Dorn finishing second after leading in qualification. However, in third place was Daniel Abt. Ooh, he had a surprisingly fast qualification and race. I wonder why. This leads me on perfectly to my second bit of the news. Daniel Abt, imposter scandal. That's what I'm calling this. Sorry, sorry about this. 1 second. Hello. Yeah, it's Tom Deacon. How are you doing? You all right? So you want me to do what? You want me to fill in for you doing your Newsflash, pretending to be you? I am sorry. There is no way I'm doing that. There's only one Newsflash I do, and that's Nitro Nights. I have spoken. Yes, that's a Mandalorian. Good day, sir. So sorry about that. Ridiculous. Some people, eh? Well, listen, drivers after the race they suspected some foul play, and organisers investigated, and Daniel Abt had indeed been very naughty and had got esports racer Lorenz Hörzing to drive for him in the race. Well, Daniel Abt admitted the fraud and released a statement on Sunday saying, "I didn't take it seriously as I should have. I am aware that my offence has a bitter aftertaste, but it was never meant with any bad intention." That's not how Audi saw it. Integrity, transparency and consistent compliance with applicable rules are top priorities for Audi. Audi Sport has decided to suspend Daniel Abt with immediate effect. And he also has been disqualified from the race. All points he earned have been deleted in the competition, and €10,000 he must donate to charity. So, cheats never prosper, only the charities. And I think that dismissal was apt. No more jokes, let's move on. What would I do with €10,000? That is a very good question. I'd probably go to Monaco and buy a salad. Well, the F1 Virtual Grand Prix headed to Monaco, and I tell you what, it was a grid full of F1 drivers, 8 in total. Valtteri Bottas taking to Monte Carlo in his debut, plus Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was competing, and Despacito singer Luis Fonsi. And Despacito, as you know, translate to slowly. And that's pretty much how he drove. But great to have him on board. Brilliant race. Qualification was in the wet. Pietro Fittipaldi claimed top spot. He had a very interesting technique of hitting against the barriers because damage was off, but it worked for him. However, when the sun came out across Monaco, it was George Russell who took advantage of an absolutely messy start. Alfa Romeo car bumped into Valtteri Bottas and knocked him back in the grid. However, he still got the points. But as I mentioned, George Russell did all he needed to do, eventually winning the race by 40 seconds. Congratulations to him. Back-to-back wins now for him. And as we know with Monaco, there's been lots of crashes and bold overtakes. Have a look at this one with Lando Norris. Decided to split in between the two Ferrari drivers, Artur and Charles Leclerc. Charles was not happy at all, but Lando did apologise, and apparently they're besties again, so don't worry. The next Virtual Grand Prix will be on the 7th of June. We're heading to Azerbaijan for Baku. Now, talking of F1, the F1 legend that is Fernando Alonso took part in his second race. His debut came at Zandvoort a week or so ago, and interestingly enough, he did it again, back-to-back wins. The first one, he was up against the likes of Mario Andretti, Jenson Button, and this was taking place in Indianapolis, where the legendary Indy 500 was supposed to have been taking place. Button Alonso fighting it out in the first race. It was a hard win for Alonso, 0.037 seconds ahead of Button. And in the reverse grid, well, this is where it gets very exciting. Fernando Alonso starting in P21. Could he get past all of the cars? Well, I've already given it away. He did manage to do that, get past everyone to take the win. Incredible scenes from him. Will we see him returning to F1? Well, we will have to wait and see. Well, there you go. That is the Newsflash done and dusted. I cannot wait to get into next week's. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon. I'm just going to hang out in my lounge now. Might sit there or there or... Anyway, bye.
Thank you, Tom, for this fantastic news flash. And of course, Tom is not our only racing enthusiast in today's show. We have a very, very special guest who's no stranger to the esports scene, a commentator who has done it all, Leigh Deman Smith. So, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your time.
That's great to be here, Melly. Great to see you again, and a belated happy birthday and all that.
Thank you so much. And I mean, Leigh, esports racing or motorsports in general is something that I have a very, very strong connection to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been involved in the sim racing world for quite a while now through my link with knowing Rene Butler very well. So he's managed to draw me into it very well. Obviously, I've got a history of knowing the racing and everything. I've been very much into Formula One when I was a kid, due to my dad's love for the sport, which is what sort of drew me into it. Like back from, I think it was 1986, I went to Brands Hatch. It was the last year of Brands Hatch, and they had a massive pile-up on the first corner. So obviously as a kid, you're like, yes, this is great. I love it. Obviously that's not like what the sport's about, but at the time when I think I was about 8 years old, that's what draws you in.
I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? And I mean, you have commentated on a lot of different esports disciplines. And can you tell me what is the difference between esports racing and maybe other esports titles?
I guess I could draw similarities. Obviously, the fact is that racing is a real sport, whereas your Counter-Strikes, your League of Legends, these are not real life sports. So you're obviously, it immediately changes things because there is a traditional sport that you can look to and see how they're doing it. And it's the same with football, obviously, with your FIFAs and your PESs out there. You look to the real life football commentators, just as I look towards the real life Formula One commentators like Crofty at the moment that works for Sky. So you see how him as a play-by-play commentator, how I would do it, would approach it, and you sort of take cues from that effectively.
All right. So is there any difference in how you as a commentator approach esports racing than to the other titles?
I don't think so. I mean, commentating is commentating at the end of the day for me. It's something I've always loved. So you sort of, I could be, casting tiddlywinks or, some sort of bloody, I don't know, any old thing, lawnmower racing, as you mentioned earlier on. I could be commentating that, and I would love it. I would love it because I just love the commentating side of things. Like certainly for racing games, I grew up in the Murray Walker era, which was a legendary commentator in the English broadcasting industry. There's a cat jumping around in the background. There's plenty of cats here. Don't worry. Yeah, so for that, I bring his natural enthusiasm that he had, and that was like one of my role models as a commentator growing up.
Esports racing, there are many, many different titles out there. That's something a lot of people kind of see as a negative aspect to esports racing. How do you see it?
I mean, I can understand the negative side of things, but it's also a positive from it because at the end of the day, competition pushes all the other titles to go on. There's always going to be multiple titles out there because it's obviously a big money industry at the end of the day. But of all the titles out there, you have varying degrees of like seriousness. Obviously, at the top of the chain, you have your R Factor 2s and your iRacing, which are like the dedicated serious sims. And then you'll go down through like the Assetto Corsas and stuff. And if you look at, say, obviously, what a lot of the races, Lando Norris, probably prime example to use right now. He's racing across all the platforms. He's not just racing on one. He's racing across them all. And that's generally what you'll see. Like the sim racers out there, your Kevin Siggies and stuff like that are at the top of the game. They are obviously McLaren Shadow driver for real life, but also he races across the sims, but he doesn't just race across one. He's not just like one game guy. It's not like Counter-Strike. It's like if you're a Counter-Strike player, you're a Counter-Strike player, and that's your only game. In racing, it's not like that. In racing, you can race, we're going to do an Assetto Corsa race. We're going to do one in iRacing. We're going to have a bit of fun. We'll jump into Forza or something like that. And that's what they're doing. Hell, I think they've even been playing Rocket League as well. But anything with a car, these guys are happy to race. They're not. It's very different from traditional esports. Can I call it that now? We've been around long enough that I can call traditional esports. But what I'm saying is like,
yes.
if you're a League of Legends player, you don't play Dota. That's the thing. You're against Dota. It's like, I'm a Dota player, not a League of Legends player. It's not like that in the racing world. You're happy to race in any game that comes out that is good.
All right, Leigh, thank you so much for this insight. But now you get the chance to prove how fast you actually are. So Are you ready for a quick fire question round?
Okay, I am. My problem is I waffle too much, so I don't know how quick it'll be.
Let's see. So I would say, let's get things started. Are you ready?
Okay.
So first question. What is your favorite car?
Ferrari 520. I think it was 520.
Okay.
520?
I have no idea.
I can't remember the Spider.
The Spider.
It was the Ford.
Okay. Your racing idol.
Racing idol?
Yeah.
Would have been Nigel Mansell, because that's what I grew up with.
What is the best track in the world?
Silverstone.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you could have the Norge life, but I'm English. I grew up at Silverstone. I went to Silverstone all the time. So
Green Hell all
that
the
for
way.
me is the best track. Yeah.
Okay, so which racing game is your favorite, or which sim is your favorite?
Well, I'd be silly not to say R Factor 2 right now, because that's what I commentate for.
And last but not least,
Love you, Renee.
pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes, I actually have Hawaiian pizza all the time. That is my go-to pizza. Sorry.
I knew that you were a bit weird, Leigh, but I liked you anyways. So thank you, Leigh. That was quite fun. We're going to talk to you in just a bit, so don't hang up. And for you guys at home, we have another segment waiting for you. Let's see who else is getting into the virtual race cars nowadays.
During the global COVID-19 pandemic, racing's no longer possible. The circuits are empty and the cars locked in garages. So what are all the racing icons doing now? They're turning to the virtual world and continuing their career in esports racing. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are just two of the most prominent names continuing their journey on the virtual track. There are more well-known pilots showing that they can handle a virtual race car just as well as a real one. They compete against the world's most popular racers like Jenson Button, who even won the Legends Trophy and with it $10,000 for charity. We even saw some great head-to-head races from Nico Rosberg and David Coulthard. Rosberg managed to clinch a victory in the end and emerge as the F1 Legends Challenge winner. Some even turn to streaming. Charles Leclerc, for example, is quite an active streamer on Twitch, where he plays a variety of different racing games. The oldest legend to join the fray to win is definitely the 73-year-old two-time Formula One world champion Emerson Fittipaldi.
17th place, and there goes Emerson Fittipaldi into the back of Darren Turner.
But it's not only current and retired racers that are part of the new race craze. Esports racing has caught the interest of some superstars from the world of soccer, like Thibaut Courtois and Sergio Aguero, who are also taking part in today's competitions. Right now, everyone's trying to prove themselves behind the wheel.
Yes, a lot of things have changed the past few months due to the pandemic. And of course, our guest is still with us. Leigh is still with us, at least virtually, not on my couch, sadly, due to the pandemic. But Leigh, as already mentioned, a lot of things have changed. What is your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic's had to change the esports world in general. Clearly, we are not going to be filling stadiums for a while still, it seems, unless things definitely change. I think the end of August is the current plan in Germany. I'm pretty sure it's going to go longer than that. But it means that the esports world can adapt, and that's why we're seeing these virtual races gaining so much traction effectively with the top drivers that ordinarily wouldn't have the time to join us, to take part. So which is why we're seeing, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, all these guys, Alex Albon, like literally the Red Bull racers, the Ferrari racers, the Mercedes, even Bottas is now in there from Mercedes. So all of the very top echelon of Formula One is in there. Maybe we'll be able to drag Lewis Hamilton screaming and kicking to a console at some point, but even Alonso took part. By the way, Alonso, he's had the game and the rig for 1 week and won 2 races already. Incredible. So it's great to see these guys coming in there, but will it stick? Will it stick afterwards when the Formula One racing world's back to how it is?
That's my question to you, actually. So what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I don't expect, obviously, the F1 drivers and such to probably be taking part as much, because the fact is they're going to have other obligations. They're going to have to race in real life. But I think it's definitely gained a lump of respect from those guys. Obviously used to look at maybe the sim racing world and just like, yeah, but you're just doing it in a simulator. I think it's definitely garnered a lot of respect. We may see the sim racing world rise a fair amount from it. It certainly has in popularity and viewership. I'm just hoping that a lot of those do stick around after, because obviously we're seeing Thankfully, the way that people are doing it is they've separated them. They realized after the first race that the sim racers were blowing these superstars out of the water. So they've separated them. And I think they're appreciating just how good these sim racers are at the game. And whether we'll see them maybe develop, and some of those sim racers could become potential future stars, because that seems to be the track that the world is going.
I mean, esports racing has come a long way if we look on the past years. Where do you think it's going?
It's definitely starting to lead to it. Obviously, we're seeing the McLaren, the world's fastest gamer, set up. Rudy Van Bruggen doing very well in that, and clearly now moving on. In the Forza world, and you had Liège, the French driver, who's also been sticking it in the go-karts and now having goes in cars, and obviously you've also got the likes of Kevin Siggy in there and etc. that are already shadow drivers themselves. So there's certainly an element of top drivers that moving across now that have come from sim racing. I think of I can't think of the guy's name, the Red Bull driver. He does the rallycross. He's got thumbs like here. They're massive because he was sim racing for years and years and years, and obviously that's transferred into rallycross driving, where you've got to have crazy thumbs because that's basically what you're driving with. So these guys are starting to make that step already. It's happening before the pandemic even hit us. But I think this may accelerate things.
Do you think that maybe even retired motorsports athletes like Nico Rosberg, for example, can start a comeback in the digital realms of motorsports?
I mean, they're certainly doing it. Obviously, we're seeing Jenson Button in the Legends and a lot of the guys in there. They'll do it for fun. They're enjoying the moment. I think it's safe to say. Whether they'll continue doing it, I mean, they're going to have the rigs and they'll probably do it in the privacy of their own time. I don't think we'll probably see such events as we have now, because of the fact these guys have millions. Nico Rosberg's a world champion Formula One driver for Mercedes. He is absolutely loaded. Will he spend his hours in a sim rig? Because if you think in sim racing, some of these guys will be in it for hours and hours and hours. Does he have the time to do that? I don't know. He'll certainly do it while it's fun, which is what he's having right now.
But I mean, he is an athlete. He has been competing all his life. He has that competitive genes. So maybe we will see names like this pop up again, and maybe even continue competing after the pandemic. But Leigh, sadly, our time is over. Thank you so much for this amazing interview, and I can't wait to have you here on my couch in this amazing studio sometime soon. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our next segment of the night. It is our social showroom, where we have a closer look on social media and the happenings around the world. And I would say, let's jump into our very first highlight of the night.
He must literally have no fun knowing. This is never good.
Oh, wow!
How's neutral, mate? How's neutral?
That's pretty good, man.
Mate, this is a joke!
Here we saw Charles Leclerc choosing a very unorthodox way to finish a race. Sadly, it didn't work in his favor, but it was at least fun to watch. Thank you so much for sharing. And let's head over to our next tweet of the night. It's James Franklin tweeting to Jimmy Broadband, "My 8-year-old daughter knows you as the swearing YouTuber and today immortalized that in print. I can't explain the inclusion of the pineapple." Me neither, but it's a very nice drawing. But there is also a response to that already. "Fix tonight's VirtualGP ad for you, Jimmy. It's what we all wanted to see." That's what we all wanted to see indeed. Thank you so much for those amazing tweets. But last but not least, Roberto Carlos showing off his racing rig. And I mean, look at the proud look on his face. He's standing there like a proud parent showing off his baby to the world. But guys, we actually want to see your setups at home. If it's a full racing rig or just a PC setup, doesn't matter. Send them over using the hashtag NitroNights over at Twitter. And I can't wait to look through all your photos and your setups at home. But there is sad news today as well. we're at the end of our show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. And I can't wait, we can't wait to welcome you back next week on Wednesday night in this lovely studio for the next episode of Nitro Nights. Have a good night.